About 2 months ago, I did a video called Can I Beat Elden Ring as a Merchant? Within that video, I limited myself to only do damage with Frenzy Flame incantations. However, to make the things not completely difficult, I allowed myself to get a tarnished puppet, in this case, Nefeli Lu. But with the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC released, it is time to ask the same question yet again. Can I beat Shadow of the Erdtree as a merchant? Our journey began shortly after our previous one has ended. We had just killed the Golden Beast, and we had just become the Lord of Frenzied Flame. It has spread chaos across the lands between. However, we still have Melna to deal with, and she has sworn that she will hunt us down to the ends of the earth. Instead of being the prey, we will switch the roles and become the hunter. We will start searching for Melna, looking for every nook and cranny to find her. We eventually find her inside an ancient ruin. As if Melna knew we were coming, she was already prepared. As soon as we locked eyes, we knew this was going to be a fight to the death. Only one of us can leave here alive. The battle commenced, with her using her blade, the Black Flame, and Destined Death to try to take me out from the world. However, we countered with the power of our Frenzied Flame. We eventually forced her retreat into a tunnel. We gave chase, and she surprised us with her Black Flame relic sword, slicing into our flesh. After coming back to our senses, we realized we are inside of a different land. And without Melna in sight, we get up only to feel a sharp pain inside of our chest. After checking what was wrong with us, we've realized that our Lord of Frenzy Flame has been stolen from us. But as if the Frenzy Flame was guiding me, we can feel a light in the distance. This must be what Hineta was talking about whenever she was trying to look for the Frenzy Flame. We start making our way over, trying to figure out where it could be. We eventually come across some people looking for Miquella. They've asked me if I've seen him. In the back of my mind, we question if Miquella was true here. If he was, then maybe he was the reason I was stripped away of my Lord of Frenzied Flame. We decide to play along and try to figure out which ones we can try to manipulate to our own cause. However, without giving myself away, we figured out that all of them are underneath a powerful charm of Miquella. So we may have to return to this at a later date. We then cross the bridge, deal with a giant carrying guard dog, and then somehow manage to fall off this part of the waterfall. After that, we finally reach Reilala. That's a weird name if I'm being completely honest. Reilala was able to do quite a number on me, and was able to get me 4 times. However, the foundations of our new strategy to beat the bosses was starting to come into play, though I will not explain this strategy quite yet. Just know, after a bit of struggle, we are able to defeat Reilala. Though we were following the distant light, we felt a massive burst of Frenzy Flame energy coming from behind us. We try to follow it, leading us all the way to a massive city. After making our way through the town, we come across a giant arena. There we'll fight the Dancing Lion. The fight with the Dancing Lion was actually super easy, and not at all an inconvenience. Even though he was able to back me into a wall several times and almost caused me to die. But we managed to get out and were able to defeat him on our first attempt. We headed to where we felt the Frenzy Flame signal, only to realize that the tower is covered in a shadowy liquid. We were so close, yet so far. We had to figure a way to burn away this shadow. So we continued forward to Mesmer's castle. With Miquella's grip destroyed, and more importantly, his great charm across everyone else, it would have been a perfect time to set up my plan of manipulation. However, our first priority is to deal with this giant golden hippo. And deal with it we do. Our first target for manipulation will be Lady Letta. And even though the Hornset would have been much easier, we need to get on her good side so we can try to manipulate the others. Upon the Hornet's defeat, we feel the distant light yet again, pulling us towards a ladder. After taking it down, we end up in the waterway, which leads us to a room with a painting. After interacting with the painting, the distant light is gone. In our frustration, we punch the wall to reveal a hidden passageway, which will lead us to a coffin. We enter inside of it and fall down a river. Upon waking up from our coffin, we hop on our spiritual steed and go down the mountainside, leading us all the way into a dungeon, which we make our way through and fight the boss there. We're going to be nicknaming this boss the Mini-Me, because it's basically doing almost exactly what I'm doing, summoning people and shooting spells from afar. However, this was going to be my Achilles heel, and I was going to get stuck in this boss for almost an hour. And remember when I said that it would lead to a strategy that I came up with for the majority of the bosses of the DLC? Well, we had this boss to blame for that. Because after such a long time of just unfortunately dying to either complete bullshit, or dying to these things, summoning things upon us, or shooting things from afar, we came up with a perfect strategy in mind. Basically, I was going to try to keep Nepheli alive, as she did damage to the boss, as I literally just stayed around, making sure she was fully healed. Occasionally getting some shots in with the Frenzy Flame spells. But for the life of me, this strategy worked so well. And after such a long time, we are able to finally defeat the boss, then hop on Torrent and head right into the woods, only for him to get spooked and abandon us. So we continue on foot until we reach the Abyss Woods. Here, we would absolutely feel the power of the Frenzied Flame. This is definitely a place of it. This is definitely somewhere where the people feared it and locked it away. This felt like home to us. And then we saw it. A creature born of the Frenzied Flame. Unable to be hurt by normal means. We allow him to embrace us, to infect us with the power of his Frenzied Flame. However, the power boost we got from it was not enough to bring forth our Frenzied Flame. We will need to get grabbed by him for an eternity for it to come back. So we decided to continue forward until we reach a manor. Upon reaching the manor, we see a row of dead people with spikes sticking out of their heads. Was this the doing of the manor's owner? Or was this the Hornsets trying to keep the Frenzied Flame at bay? We honestly do not know. However, we do know one thing, that there is a strong source of Frenzied Flame within the manor. So we go ahead and open the door. As we start exploring the manor, we hear its owner say this.
Leave. Now. Come no closer. No closer, I say. The man is worse.
Making our way through the manor, we see several ghosts who say the following. I welcome you, O invited guest. But I must warn, as you venture in, heed the words of our great master, Midra. Approach not the madness. Lesi Sekbai. I beg you, stop. Haven't I taken enough? Are we not brethren, common in our line? And yet you only offer cruelty. I ask, what great crime did Master Midra commit? We continue to explore the manor until we hear a approaching scream. We then do a Resident Evil library puzzle and meet the mistress of the house. However, she's unfortunately passed away. We take the little torch she has and test it out. And because I'm hitting no enemies with this does not go against the challenge. As a little mini rant here, why the fuck does it require intelligence to use? Like seriously, it makes no sense. Like Frenzy Flame is all about going crazy and embracing chaos, and not using intelligence at all. It should not require intelligence to use this thing. We continue through the manor until we finally reach Master Midra. He turns around, and just as he was about to say something, he stops. Realizing our eyes, he then says, the flame. You have it as well? We respond, of course. It is one of the reasons that I was able to find you. He cowers in fear. What could you possibly want from me? We grin. Your power. We then burn him with frenzy flame.
I have endured more than enough. I ask you forgive me, dearest Nanaya.
This was exactly what I wanted. For Midra to finally show his true potential. To show me his variation of the Lord of Frenzied Flame. And even though his form is much weaker than mine is, this was still going to be a difficult fight, mainly because my form was stolen from me. And this is where Midra would absolutely destroy me for quite a bit of time. Who would have thought using Frenzy Flame spells against the Lord of Frenzy Flame would end in a good scenario for me. But all these steps I'm showing right now is more than enough to get my point across, even though we died a quite more than I'm showing on the screen right now. We then go and get some more scattered fragments, and get at least one more level for Nephili, and we make our return to Midra. With our new upgrades, this strategy was working quite a bit better, with Nephili being able to tank more and do more damage, and me able to survive more and do more damage whenever I do take those pot shots. while at the same time keeping Nephil healed as much as I can. All of this turned the tides in our favor, and we are able to defeat Midra and claim his power. With our power near its former glory, it's time to wrap things up, so that way this video is not 28 minutes like the Millennia video. Starting off, we help Ansbug defeat Leda, and then we go defeat the Betrayed Knight, so that way we can get to St. Trina. Upon drinking some of St. Trina's nectar, we fall into a deep sleep so we can hear her voice. She says that she remembers our people and the wrongdoings of the Golden Order against us. She remembers coming to us and playing a song for us to quell the frenzied flame within. She asks us not to burn away the world, but instead embrace the flaws and forge something new with the frenzied flame. And that we must kill Miquella. By defeating Tellier and telling her what St. Trina said, we get him on our side. We finally make our way to Mesmer, and we try to buy his ashes. However, the only thing he's selling is a giant orb right to my face. We initially tried not using the strategy, but then we died a couple of times and had to fall back to it. After re-implementing the strategy, we get him into his second phase. We then had some seal issues for a few attempts before we are able to finally defeat Mesmer. After heading through some ancient ruins and meeting some boat people, we finally reached the Saint of the Bud. The Saint of the Bud wasn't too bad of an issue besides they getting me once. I didn't even need to rely on the full strategy, which requires me to take away all my healing flasks and put them into the Crimson Tier flask. Honestly, this boss is very forgettable and deserves more love. We then use Mesmer's ashes to burn the shadow away from the tower. Making it halfway through the tower, we see Leda, which we're surprised that she's still alive. She states that it was never the path of Miquella we were following, nor was it the path of grace. It was a frenzied flame guiding us to Miquella, to take the power rightfully stolen from us. However, Miquella had plans for it, and that we were not going to be able to reach him. She would be summoning her allies to try to stop us. However, we have some allies of our own, through manipulation. We summon Asbug, we summon Tellier, and we summon our good warrior, Nepheli Lu. All this led to an epic brawl, where, surprisingly, one character didn't show up. Usually the soldier from Radahn's army, I can't remember her name, usually she shows up. But if you make sure that she's still reading the tablet, apparently she will not show up. So this has an idea for me in the next video, or the next one down the line, or whichever one I decide to do next, for an epic, kind of funny moment. Because thinking about it, you might be able to draw this down to a 3v1 in your favor. Heck, maybe even a 4v1, but I'm not necessarily sure. Anyways, after all that being said, we are able to defeat Leda and her crew. Before we defeat Miquella, there's two other bosses I want to take on, one of them being... Despite dying once, this boss fight was absolutely kinda easy if we're doing the strategy. If I wasn't doing a strategy, it'd probably be a little bit harder. But I always enjoy the NPC screaming at the top of his lungs, "Curse you, Bale." And considering that he doesn't even affect the health bar of Bale, I think I'll be summoning him every time I do this boss fight, because I absolutely enjoy it. Anyways, without too much issues, we were able to defeat Bale, and we head on to our next opponent, which is the mother of all fingers. Surprisingly, This was the easiest out of them all, despite it being on water, making it where my fire damage was absolutely reduced. But because it was on water, Nepheli's damage was absolutely increased. And we melted this thing so hard, to the point where I didn't even die a single time. It was super easy, and barely an inconvenience. As a bonus, we get to absolutely shred Jonah and Ymir with a frenzied flame. And despite our 2 deaths, Commander Gurus was the final cherry on top. Honestly, I was expecting to die more to this guy. But now it is time to finally make our way back to Miquella. Upon reaching Miquella, we don't actually see him. Instead, we see Radahn, fully revived and in his prime, with the power of Moog. He rushes at us, and surprisingly, we are able to get him into a second phase on our first attempt. It is then that Miquella would return, happy that his Lord Brother's soul is finally back. He says, "O Lord Frenzy Flame, thou would destroy the world and reset everything. Instead, please lead the path forward to us. I, Miquella, and my consort Radahn, we would make the world a gentler place, with no more sins and no more curses. An age full of compassion and love for all." Though Miquella's new order sounds very promising, there is one massive downside, and that there would be no free will. No one would have the right to choose their own destiny. Everyone would be forced to do whatever Miquella told them to do. Itself is a curse. Decline his offer and challenge him and Radahn to a fight. We died quite a few times before I decided to finally throw in towel and summon people to help out. And yes, I was quicker to summon people on this challenge run instead of Millennia. But can you really blame me, considering I'm using Frenzy Flame Mutations, which takes 1.5 years to cast? And yet they still haven't fixed the unable to summon Phantom problem. This thing will still haunt my nightmares. Which leads us to our 2 heroes we have today, Erdtree and Midra. They both are absolute units, taking the attention away from me so I can sit back and spam my Frenzy Flame burst. Occasionally I go up there and heal them if they're running low in health. Unfortunately, Midra couldn't outrun Miquella's massive blast and met an unfortunate demise, leaving me and Ira left. While Ira was doing his best to keep the boss busy, I kept shooting it in the back with my Frenzy burst, and occasionally going up there to keep him healed. But eventually, we were able to defeat him. Thank goodness for both these heroes coming in and saving the day for me. With the gateway of a god right in front of us, we decide to burn it all down with the Frenzy Flame. This would ensure the destruction of every living being, every soul, every spirit, everything that has ever came, everything that will ever be, every sin, every curse. No more deaths, no more births. Melting it all away with the frenzied flame. And this time, Melna cannot do anything about it. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy this video, please help it out by leaving a like, comment, subscribe. Usually I would show up the build, but because this is basically the same build as the first video, I'm not going to be showing up this time around. However, if you do have a suggestion for another challenge run, please leave them down in the comments below, and it will be posted as an option inside the community tab on my new channel. Anyways, Goodbye, everyone.